All right, welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a framework that completely flips a huge assumption most of us have on its head, the idea that all our problems are out there. We're going to explore how just by shifting our focus inward, we can totally reframe our reality.
Okay, let's get real for a second. Go ahead and picture someone in your mind right now. You know, that one person, maybe it's a boss, a partner, or a client, who just consistently gets under your skin. We all have one, right? Someone whose name alone just makes you tense up.
And what happens when you think about them? That tension hits, right? And what's our first move? We point the finger. We think, if only they would change, or this whole situation is the problem. It feels like a rock-solid fact that the source of all our frustration is external. So we spend all this time and energy trying to fix that person, or fix that situation, trying to wipe away what we see as a flaw on the screen of our lives. But here's the thing. What if all that effort is being pointed in the completely wrong direction?
And that brings us to this really powerful idea from the work of Byron Katie. What if our mind isn't some crystal clear window that's just looking out at reality? What if instead our mind is actually a projector, and this entire world that we're experiencing is just the image being cast by our own thoughts? Let's really lean into this projector metaphor, because if you can get on board with this, everything changes. I mean, think about it. If you're at the movies and you see a weird smudge on the screen, you don't run up and try to wipe the screen clean, do you? Of course not. You know the problem is with the projector, or maybe just a little bit of dust on the lens.
So, what is the dust on the lens in this metaphor? Well, the source material calls them our stories. These are all the automatic, unchecked thoughts and interpretations we just slap onto everything that happens. You know, your boss walks by without smiling, and the story in your head is instantly, she's mad at me. I did something wrong.
And this is a huge point, something that author Eckhart Tolle really zeroes in on. We don't just have these stories, we completely identify with them. We mistake our own internal narrative for objective reality. And that fusion, right there, is where all the suffering starts. So you can see the two paths here, right? On one hand, you've got the futile approach, trying to scrub the screen, trying to change the entire world out there. And on the other hand, you have the truly effective approach, working on the projector, your own mind, by cleaning the lens, which is that one specific thought that's causing all the pain.
Okay, so if the goal is to clean the lens, how in the world do we actually do that? This isn't just some vague, feel-good idea. There's actually a beautifully simple and yet incredibly profound, practical method for looking at our own thoughts.
Well, this method is called the work, and it comes from Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. And don't worry, it's not some complicated system. It's actually built around just 4 simple questions you can ask yourself about any stressful thought that you're believing. All right, let's get into the toolkit itself. These 4 questions are the absolute core of the process. They're how we clean the lens of our perception to find a clearer and honestly a much more peaceful reality. Here they are, the 4 questions. So you take that stressful thought, you know, the one like, my partner doesn't appreciate me, and you just hold it up against these questions, one by one. So the first 2 questions, these are like your immediate reality check. Question 1 is a simple yes or no. Is it true? But then question 2 really deepens things. Can you absolutely know that it's true? I mean, really? Can you know with 100% certainty what's going on in someone else's head?
And then we get to questions 3 and 4. And this is where you really see the cause and effect of your own thinking. Question 3 asks you to look at the painful consequences. How does it feel in your body? What do you do when you believe that story? And then question 4, it just opens up this little window. It asks you to imagine who you would be in that exact same moment if you didn't have that thought. It gives you a taste of freedom. Okay, so the final piece of this puzzle. Honestly, this might be the most transformative part of the whole thing. It's a simple little exercise that takes you from a place of blame straight into a space of really deep personal insight. It's called the turnaround, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You take that original judgment you had about somebody else, and you literally just flip it around. You see if you can experience how the opposite of your thought might be just as true, or maybe even truer. So let's say your story is Paul is unkind. The turnaround becomes I am unkind. Now wait, before you dismiss that, the idea isn't to just beat yourself up. It's to find genuine, honest examples. For instance, in that situation with Paul, how were you being unkind? Maybe you were unkind to him in your thoughts, or unkind to yourself by replaying the stressful situation over and over? And what's so cool about this is that it's not just one flip. You can turn the statement around in a few different ways to find all the hidden truths. You can turn it back to yourself. I am unkind. You can turn it to the other person. I should be kind to Paul. Or you can turn it to the complete opposite. Paul is kind. And for each one, you just gently look for real-life examples where that might actually be true.
And when you do this, the whole game changes. You're no longer the victim of what's happening out there. You become the author of your own inner experience. You realize the source of your feelings is inside you, and that's the only place where real lasting change can ever happen. Because what this all leads back to is a pretty profound truth. The world itself isn't what's causing our pain. It's our own uninvestigated stories about the world. And when we start to question those stories, we almost always find that reality is so much kinder than we ever imagined.
So I'll leave you with this. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Think about that person you pictured. What's the one stressful story you're telling yourself about them that you might just be ready to question?